abandoned ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and our review of The Living Force, which is a novel that came out last year, 2024, by the author John Jackson Miller, and takes place in the years prior to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So we're going to dive right into that. We have a very special guest joining us again this week, as well as our lovely co-host. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back, Blake.
Hello there. What a celebration it is.
I feel like we're a little late with this review, but this book came out for to celebrate 25 years of the Phantom Menace. That's part of the reason why this book was a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because when this book came out, I think it was around the time that Phantom Menace did re-release in the theaters. So, yeah.
Because we went to that.
Yeah, we did go to that.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this book came out around the same time. That makes sense.
Yeah, same year, same summer. But yeah, we're going to dive right in. We also have a very special guest this week, returning guest, our friend Iain. Welcome back, Iain.
Hey mate, always good to be back on the show.
Oh, always good to have you back. It seems we're usually talking about books with you. I mean, you know, Iain, for anyone who hasn't listened to the to Star Wars Escape Pod before, or Star Wars, or any podcast for that matter, you know, you might not know who Iain is. And Iain's a big Star Wars reader as well. I think you and I chatted, Iain, about the Force Collector, which was like the first time that you did a Star Wars podcast, which was here, which I'm very honored for.
That was a while ago, to be fair. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That was 2019, I think.
It's 5 years ago, dude.
Yeah,
almost 6.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was. Iain was.
It was part of the journey to the Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, it was.
That's right. Yeah, Iain was one of my first special guests ever. So you know, I hold that near and dear.
That's right. It's got a special plaque.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So this week, guys, we have a book that we got through called Star Wars: The Living Force, and I'll just read a little bit about the book. But for those of you out there who have not read the book, big spoiler bell for you. This is spoiler territory, and just kind of a funny little side note is Blake, you technically didn't finish the book, did you?
No, I kind of ran out of time. Life's been a little busy, but I did the best I could.
Yeah. So
I might leave some of it for you guys to quarrel about. But
yeah. But yeah, it's gonna hopefully we got a good chat ahead of us here, and what I'll do is I'll read a little bit about the book, and then we can kind of get into just, you know, the nitty gritty of things. So all right, so this is Star Wars: The Living Force by John Jackson Miller. Takes place prior to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The story focuses on the Jedi Council as they grapple with the changing galaxy and their place within it. The Jedi have always been defenders of peace and justice, but as the galaxy evolves, so too must the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon Jinn challenges the Council about the Order's increasing isolation from the galaxy. In response to this challenge, Mace Windu suggests that all 12 Jedi Masters embark on a goodwill mission to the planet Quen, where a Jedi outpost is being decommissioned. This mission is intended to remind the people of the galaxy that the Jedi remain as stalwart and present as they have been across the ages. This is a multi-protagonist story with a large cast of characters, and I'll just kind of run through the cast here. So you'll see some familiar names. We have Jedi Master Yoda, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Depa Billaba, Koth, Yarl Poof, Adigalia, Apo Rancisis, Yaddle, Sassy Tin, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and our villains of the story, Zelastra and Kyla, who ends up being a bit of a gray character in the end. So yeah, interesting things. And maybe we can start with you, Iain. Like, what did you think of this book, just in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, yeah, it was a quite a interesting adventure where you obviously get to spend time with Jedi that don't get the obviously the showcase that like an Obi-Wan or a Qui-Gon or a Yoda get. And it was quite interesting seeing the dynamics of the characters working together. I particularly like the Ki-Adi-Mundi dynamic with I think it was Yarl Puff. That was quite a good dynamic, to quite interesting. I thought it was a really fun adventure, to be fair. It was a good read and a good story.
Yeah, it had some fun moments. I think what I appreciated most about this book was really just getting into stories that feature some of these Jedi that we haven't really had a chance to read about at all in the canon.
Especially Yarl Poof.
Yeah, like such niche characters like Yaddle and Oppo Rancis, I mean Sassy Tin, like all these characters.
I feel like Sassy Tin in the 2D animated Clone Wars had a big fan base because he was pretty badass in that.
Yeah,
because he had like Mandalorian helmet basically that went like over top of his horns.
Right.
That whole scene is very memorable.
Yeah.
But in the canon, there's not a lot about him.
No, yeah. And it was very cool to read about that. I think this is truly, within the canon, this is probably a one-of-a-kind book as far as featuring a story like this.
Around the whole council, yeah.
Yeah. It is a bit of a curious time spot, or I guess placement to feature a story, with the Jedi Council, because right before the events of Phantom Menace, things are
pretty peaceful.
Yeah, like they're pretty surprised when the Sith show up in the movie. So it's like, okay, well, what could possibly go wrong? So, having a book like this with lower stakes in mind, I think was kind of what came to mind as I was trying to decide, how I felt about the overall narrative of it. And I thought to myself, like, oh yeah, it was like, I guess it was like good. I don't know if it was like personally one of my favorites, but it had me laugh 2 or 3 times, and
it had some good moments in there for sure.
Yeah, and I think I really appreciated the diverse cast. That was like really cool. So
yeah, I agree with that. And admittedly, there were moments because I went into this novel completely blind. I just really didn't know what to expect. And you had mentioned Qui-Gon, and that's kind of all I knew.
Yeah.
So finding out it was actually it almost felt like a series of short stories that kind of all converged at the end. And so I guess I'd say some stories were more interesting than others. So there was definitely times where it did feel like a little bit of a slog, in my opinion. But I loved the idea of the narrative of covering all these different characters and then seeing how it all fits together. Mm-hmm. But there were points, especially because it's based around going to this planet Quen, and then they're going to have basically a festival because they realize after being challenged by Qui-Gon that they need to be more involved in the galaxy, which is ironic because they all go to one planet. But there were moments when they were setting up the celebration where it felt to me like the High Republic novel.
Yeah.
Where they were having
about the fair.
The Republic Fair.
Yeah. I remember you didn't like that one very much.
It was very slow.
Did you read that one, Iain?
I did, yeah. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. To be fair, when everything kicks off at the fair, it did get interesting. But yeah, I do know. But it was a bit slow to get through everyone. Just setting up for a big party is a bit like, when is the action going to start?
You might need to repeat that. I think he got clobbered by Discord there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, I know what book you're talking about. I think it's Into the Storm or The Rising Storm. Yeah, that's the one where they set up for the Republic Fair on Valor.
Yeah, right, The Rising Storm. Yeah,
and it was a bit slow, but when the action started, it was pretty good. It just took a while to get there. So I know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Depa Billaba takes the center stage in this book as she investigates a Jedi initiate's death and becomes embroiled in Zelastra's plot. So this investigation forces her to confront difficult questions about her own commitment to the Order and its principles, particularly as she grapples with the themes of attachment and letting go. These themes are closely intertwined with the larger issue of the Jedi's role in the changing galaxy. And Qui-Gon Jinn's concerns about the Order's increasing isolation, highlighted by the decommissioning of the Jedi outposts, is like the one on Quen, raises an important question about how the Jedi should engage with the galaxy and maintain their relevance in a time of shifting political landscapes as threats emerge. And I think like that was a very like probably the deeper part of the book, you know, like
I feel like that was the main thread.
yeah, for sure. Like how did you in particular like the I guess the Depa Billaba narrative in
That
the
was,
story?
I would say that was the most interesting one. Seconded probably by Kiadi Mundi Yorpoof, but yeah, I would say I was definitely always looking forward to the moments with Depa Billaba because I felt like that was really pushing the narrative the most, and that often had the most insights into what was going on with the pirate gangs, and that was the most interesting part for me.
Yeah. What did you think of that story, Ian?
Yeah, I really liked the Depa Billaba stuff. Obviously, she went undercover. I think her name was like Hotwire Undercover or something, and she was obviously trying to infiltrate the pirate gang. I did find it interesting that she was finding Mace Windu is obviously her master, and that he's telling her that you need to let go, but then he's very protective of her in the book as well, as obviously he goes and rescues her for when obviously it goes unstuck in the book. So it was quite interesting for him to say that to her when he's probably just as bad as her when it comes to letting things go. But no, the Depa Billaba stuff was really good. I did like the villain in the book. I thought Zalastra was quite a ruthless villain, and I mean the part of the book where she takes out the other gangs through the idea of using the shipping cases. I thought that was quite a savage moment, really, where it was like, oh, it's all exploded and they've killed all the pirate gang leaders. So yeah, I thought the villain as well, along with Depa, because they had their own unique. She has her own unique relationship with the Jedi, the villain, and why she hates them so much. Which, to be fair, is pretty relatable. When we find out later why she hates the Jedi. So yeah, no, I really like the Depa Billaba stuff and her trying to infiltrate the pirate gang.
Yeah.
I think that's well surmised. I feel like that's what I liked about it so much too.
Definitely. Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Do we want to get into the backstory of the villain there? Because we kind of touched on that.
Yeah, let's do that. So Zalastra, who's this the antagonist of the story, she sort of leads this pirate, I guess, is it a pirate gang or a criminal gang, I guess, known as the Rift Walkers. And in short, her backstory is when she was a child, a Jedi came and took friends of hers.
Her two closest friends, yeah.
Yeah, and, this was a classic Jedi recruitment story, right? And she felt abandoned and just grew this hate for Jedi, which then when she grew up, she started, going on a bit of a spree trying to kill as many Jedi as she could, right? And then towards the end of the story, we actually get the full story as to like who it was that came and collected her friends, and it was Master Sifo Dyas. And I was like,
okay,
yeah, and I was like, whoa, like that's cool, like a pretty cool like tie in there, I think one thing that they did say in that bit of the story where they name dropped him is it was very clear that at this point in the story, it seemed like Sifo Dyas has already gone missing or already been killed.
Yeah, he wasn't mentioned at all other than that moment, so I believe that's the case.
They also said that he had some pretty dark recruitment techniques outside of the council's will. So this wasn't actually part of his job at the time to go and just collect kids, right? Like, like Jedi do have their ways of finding Force potential students and then getting them, right?
Like Anakin, for example.
Yeah, but if anyone here has read like the Duke of Jedi Lost story, which I think you and I did a review of like a year or two ago, like something really cool about that story is it really dives into Sifo Dyas' obsession with his visions, right? He is just kind of plagued with these visions of the future, and he becomes obsessed about the dark days ahead, and essentially gives into his fear. That's kind of what we see with that character, and he sort of goes out of his way to collect as many Force potential kids as possible because he is obsessed with defending the galaxy and growing the Jedi Order and building an army. And this is also, it goes hand in hand with his secret Kaminoan order for the clone army as well. He is just kind of doing his own thing. He's completely gone rogue at this point, which really gives a lot of insight into why he decides to side with his old friend Dooku, who at this point has already left the order over perhaps differences, you know, politically and stuff. And
man, this character is really needing like if they do another Tales of the Jedi series.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really, really cool tie-in to a novel with a story that didn't seem like it was going to have anything super big as far as a role to play in those narratives. But I was pleasantly surprised when they brought that up.
It's a really good tie-in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Something really cool is this book also highlighted Plo Koon and Sassy Tin's close friendship. And
I did not know that existed.
Yeah, so you mentioned, Blake, just earlier, just the 2D Clone Wars Genji series, right? The Clone Wars series. So in that series, I think it's Plo Koon and Sassy Tin. I think they have a little mission together, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm thinking of the 3D Clone Wars series. With the Citadel arc. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's probably the 3D, because 2D you only see Sassy Tin.
Okay, yeah.
When he's in the space battle.
I think they're in Jedi starfighters in the Citadel arc when they go to rescue them. I'm pretty sure Sassy Tin's definitely there. I'm not sure about Plo Koon, but it's definitely Sassy Tin.
Okay, yeah. So it was cool to see that this book really, I guess, highlighted that. You know, similar to Yarrow Poof and Kiadi Mundi's quirky little friendship with humorous moments. This novel also gave Plo Koon and Sassy Tin a chance to shine on the stage as well. So that was very cool to see. Let's see what else.
It's also neat just to see the insight of how the Jedi run things. Like Sassy Tin is like the mechanic, so he kind of just does all of the Jedi repairs for stuff.
Yes,
and then Plo Koon helps him out, but is more specialized, I guess, in trying to organize things and make sure everything runs more smoothly. But they're both were kind of behind the scenes jobs as opposed to being out communicating with people.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being the Jedi who's expected to just repair everyone's ship?
That would kind of suck.
I feel kind of bad for him.
Yeah. The other character we haven't really highlighted here, her name is Kyla, and she was initially affiliated with the Riftwalkers, which then I guess turns good towards the end of the story. She is sort of, I guess, essentially redeemed by Depa. Is that how you guys would put it in a way?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So Kyla is a young human girl who can sneak around spaceships due to her small size. She's integral to Zalastra's early plans, and Depa Billaba attempts to remove Kyla from Zalastra's influence. We see this echo through the whole book is this narrative of help one person. And this is like Qui-Gon's motive or his challenge to the council, which Depa Billaba is not there for that challenge. But it still emanates through the story. But it was like, man, like this novel does have some very just wholesome Jedi value stuff going on. It's not exactly your action-packed Clone Wars story.
Which admittedly I think is what I guess was, because I didn't look into it all before reading this book.
Yeah.
So I was expecting it to be more of an adventure. I think I was more prepared. I might have had a different expectation and would have changed my perspective on it a bit.
Right.
But yeah, it did feel very much about them trying to get out from under, or basically being called out for being the dogmatic, closed-in Jedi that we see in the Phantom Menace. So it's unfortunate that we see they succeed on this one planet and they go back to doing exactly what they were doing before for the Phantom Menace.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's most of what I've got here, at least for the main things. There's one thing else that I did write down as I finished the story, and that is, of course, as most stories do, have a connection to Darth Sidious in this time period, right? And weirdly enough, I was not expecting this at all. So towards the end of the book, you do get a small tidbit of Sidious's connections to this plot, to this story, and it's very, very, shall we say, like it's not very direct, like a super indirect connection, but it's still like very interesting to see that this dude is busy. Like Sidious is like a busy guy. So basically, like Sidious at one point, many years prior to the event of this story, had met the was he the caretaker or something of the temple on Quen?
Yeah, he's on Quen. I'm not sure about Quen, but I know the Jedi.
It's the Jedi outpost
the Jedi
on
temple,
on
for
Quen.
sure.
The Jedi temple on Quen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. So he met him at some function, and they made a bit of an arrangement in which he would supply Sidious some Jedi historical archives and art and various texts that he would then go through, personally keep some, and give back the rest, of which he was instructed to destroy. So this caretaker guy decides not to destroy the remaining artifacts and chooses instead to selfishly sell them to a local buyer, who in turn sold them at his shop or something like that. Was that how you would put it, Ian?
Yeah, I think so. I think he obviously Sidious told him. To be fair, he doesn't know he's Darth Sidious. He just thinks he's dealing with Sheev Palpatine,
Senator. Yeah.
But I think he went to obviously he sold them, and then I think they were found in someone else's shop who he sold them to, and then obviously word gets back to Sidious. Now I'm pretty sure we get a little Darth Maul sighting right at the end of the book.
Yeah. So
he's like, he stood behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Like it's like a ghost story, you know. Like he basically reveals his plan, you know, to the reader, but also to this guy who is like his the caretaker of the outpost or whatever. And then he has Maul kill him, because Maul just shows up out of nowhere and just like kills him, right?
Right, Sith assassin.
Because I think he says something like, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the person behind you. And then in the book, it's like someone stood there with red skin and black tattoos. You're like, oh, right, that's not going to go in well then.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I did like, the character is the caretaker guy is a Bim. I think that's from the planet Bimisari, which is from the Heir to the Empire, which is a pretty cool little tie-in.
Oh, wait, did you say Edge of the Empire?
Like the game?
Yeah, the Heir to the Empire. Yeah, the planet Bimisari. I think the character's a Bim, which is from the planet Bimisari. So it's just a nice little tie into like a Legends alien that plays a prominent role in the Heir to the Empire.
Oh, Heir to the Empire. Yes, of course. Yeah. That is cool. That was a good catch. I didn't actually catch that.
So I think he's a Bim. That's Bimisari. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of cool, you know.
Does that mean that Palpatine was the one who was the exterminator that showed up at the outpost? Because the caretaker said he had hired an exterminator to get rid of these bugs that are eating the techs, and then a bunch were missing after that.
Yeah, I think that was his excuse.
Okay,
that was his excuse, but in actual fact, he
just
has been giving them to Sidious.
Yeah.
Right, or Sheev, right? Because he just thinks he's just a nice politician guy who acknowledges him, right? Because this guy is like, he's a lonely guy, right? Like he's like got no friends, you know. It's like, here's this like big shot senator, you know. He makes him an offer, and in turn he does offer something back. Like there was something about trafficking like ships through that area or something like that, on a space lane, and then of course when he found out that these techs were not being destroyed but being resold, he decides to, he's like, okay, yeah, you don't scratch my back, I don't scratch yours, I'm not doing you any favors.
Right.
So
Darth Maul comes to visit.
Yeah. So then he sends Darth Maul to pay him a visit, you know. So it's kind of funny, but
I feel like that's been the ending of a couple of books where it's just like, look behind you, Darth Maul's there. Right, I'll just kill you. All right, yeah. That was the same as Shadowhunter, the Legends book, where the character escapes Darth Maul forever, and then at the end of the book, he's literally like, "Oh, Palpatine, I'm so happy to see you. I've got something to tell you." And it's like at the end of the book, you're like, "Oh,
right." Yeah. Feel like they need more Star Wars stories that ends off with Maul at the very end. Even Solo. Solo ends off with Maul.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like he's always like he's always surprising people.
He's just this cameo character.
The doors open, Darth Maul, every time. So another thing at the very end of the book, Depa Billaba talks to her old master, Mace Windu. And like hints at her taking on a Padawan. She's just like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm ready to take a Padawan. And Mace says that the Force will look kindly on whoever you choose. And this is just a little nod of the head to Kanan Jarrus, Caleb Doom.
Oh, right.
So, who is the apprentice of Depa Billaba. So
Man, I didn't know that. I didn't think about that. So that means Kanan technically has a connection to Mace Windu.
Yeah,
of
he
all
does. Yeah.
characters.
He is a legacy of that character. Yeah. And so does Ezra.
Yeah, I think in one of the Rebels episodes when they meet Cham Syndulla, they talk about Mace Windu. I'm pretty sure Kanan says something about the Battle of Ryloth and that, and then Cham Syndulla's like, Mace Windu. Yeah, so that's a cool little tie-in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it's always cool to see that thing. I think about that more often now that I've seen Ahsoka and how Anakin sort of does this last lesson with her about her being part of a legacy. And like I think about it more often now that they've kind of emphasized that in the story, and I think, oh yeah, like I guess it is sort of an important part of being a Jedi apprentice, is that you carry forward all of the teachings that came before you from your master and their master before them. And
So it's where Anakin has Count Dooku tendencies.
well, I guess that's sort of where that interesting connection comes in, right? It's like Dooku trained Qui-Gon, who trained Obi-Wan, who trained Anakin, and yeah, it is really interesting to think about when you think about it like that. It's like you're I don't know.
It adds a lot of depth to the duels between Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku. But they don't. I think there's like one line where that is brought up, but then just kind of that's it.
Yeah. It's like fighting your evil great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
quite relatable, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think about that more often than not now that that's part of the story, and I think like, oh wow, like we're still seeing like to this day like the legacy of Mace Windu, delivered through characters like Ezra, or the legacy of Anakin is now delivered through characters like Ahsoka and technically Sabine now, and it just kind of carries forward, right? And then of course Luke Skywalker's still floating around out there, and it's just an interesting part of the story that I never used to think about, and now I think about it more often. So, so that's the story in a nutshell. Did you guys have anything to bring up about it?
I'm just waiting for us to play this clip.
Yeah. Here. Oh, actually, sorry. I did want to talk about one other thing that we haven't talked about at all. Even Peel. He's in this book. I think I missed his name. But Even Peel, I want more.
Yeah.
I loved his character in this story. It was great. It felt so in line with how he's depicted in the Clone Wars series, and we listened to the audiobook, you and I, Blake. So like the voice of Even Peel was like bang on, like it was like super well done. Literally felt like it had popped right off the screen. And,
they nailed that.
Yeah,
they absolutely nailed that in this.
Yeah,
because I think it's just the because we did the audiobook version, so it's just the one guy doing the voices. So I was very impressed with the voices he was able to pull off for this.
Oh yeah, 100%. Speaking of the voices though, who was the girl? I thought that voice was incredibly annoying.
The young girl?
I think it was her. I think it was Kyla.
Kyla, yeah.
I think it was Kyla. I'm pretty sure it was her. But anyway, that there were some moments which were just a little like screechy, and I was like,
well, it is a grown man trying to do a young girl's voice. So
yeah, I commemorate I appreciate the attempt, but it was like a little jarring. I had to turn down my volume.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we got a little audio clip to play here, and then we can
let's set it up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you talk about this? What is this clip exactly about?
So this is it. I would argue this was the highlight of the entire book for me, because I was not expecting this moment to happen, but it's a very unique moment to Ki-Adi-Mundi. It's something that I feel like adds, it's one of those things that did not need to be in a book or even in existence in Star Wars canon, but I'm so glad it does, because it's just such a fun moment to put in there. And I think of the entire novel, this is the thing I'll probably remember for the years to come. So I thought it was worth sharing here with the audience.
All right, let's take a quick listen.
Ki-Adi-Mundi righted it and ventured back out into the crowd. He was about to try the ice mound when, without warning, a tall Yarkora woman in a floral gown burst forth from the crowd. Well-coiffed hair framed her long snout and wide nostrils, and she wore an enormous smile. "Hello!" she cried. Ki-Adi-Mundi looked up at her with mild disinterest. "Greetings," She looked back over her shoulder before facing him.
And what's your name?
Chiati Mundi.
You say the most wonderful things.
Long tan arms grabbed the surprised Jedi, pulling him into an embrace. He looked past her to the street.
I have dropped my ice mound. You'll buy another one.
She released him.
You'll buy me one too, won't you, sweetheart?
Chiati Mundi tried to pull away. I'm afraid you have mistaken me for someone else.
Oh, I could never want someone else. Such a profile you cut. That rugged frame, that beard. Ooh.
She stroked the side of his face.
That head.
The Jedi Master looked around, embarrassed by the display of affection. It was fortunate that no one knew him here, and that his fellow members of the council were not around. That would have been a fate worse than death. Still, he preferred not to act abruptly. If she was experiencing mental or emotional instability, that might cause her a setback. So he took care in trying to escape her. I'm sorry, but you must...
All right, that's enough.
A rugged-looking Yarkora male charged from a storefront in their direction. He stopped before the pair and looked Chiati Mundi over.
Aha! A Syrian!
He faced the woman.
What truth, Polaris? Is he the one from that sales conference? I'm not telling you anything.
The female clung to Chiati Mundi more tightly.
Leave us alone, Aptor!
The Jedi put up his hands. Good citizens, I have no... The man she called Aptor yelled.
A likely story!
I told no story.
That's it!
Aptor punched his hand with his fist.
I don't know who you think you are, but let's go!
Go? Go where?
Right here!
He pointed at the ground. He stomped on the fallen ice mound and pulverized it with his shoe.
That'll be your head if you don't let Viralis go!
This time, the Jedi succeeded in freeing himself from her. There was quite a crowd around by now. I tell you, I have never seen this person before.
Then what are you doing harassing her?
Harassing? Aptor pointed to Viralis.
She and I are having a disagreement. This has nothing to do with you, and I'll thank you to keep out of it!
It would be my profound pleasure, Chiati Mundi said. Viralis reached out, preventing him from leaving.
You leave Chiati Mundi alone, Aptor! We're finished! Finished?
Aptor stomped on the ground again.
What about the children?
With difficulty, Chiati Mundi reclaimed his arm. Am I to understand you two have a family together?
Family, yes. Together, no.
Viralis glared at Aptor.
I've been his business partner for 20 years. We've got a house together. We've got 5 children.
I think that's probably enough. Could you just imagine Chiati Mundi of all characters getting caught up in this like affair?
Just like this family affair drama. Like, yeah, I know. It's quite funny, isn't it?
And the fact that she like recognizes him.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, but like how though, right?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's so funny because he's such a stoic character.
He is.
He's being thrust into this situation.
Yeah. There's some funny moments with him in Clone Wars that I wish we did get a little more of, but. That was definitely a funny moment in the book for sure. Were there other moments that cracked you up, Ian, like throughout this novel?
Yeah, I really like the three Stooges characters that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan constantly run into. I think the main guy's called the Lobber or something, and they just bumble their way through the book.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The wannabe pirates that keep trying to join the gang.
Yeah, and the main villain literally just trying to kill them off every time, and they survive each time, and then get to the end of the book, and then they double cross her. It's quite funny, like, but yeah. It's funny how they keep running into the same people, like different. They run into him on the ship at the start of the thing. They run onto the base when it's being attacked, and they run into him on the ship at the end of the book. It's quite funny, to be fair.
Yeah. Those are the three guys that they ended up setting up with a job or something at the end, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think they set him up with a job to like repossess ships, but legally on like Coruscant.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. I think like overall, like it was a surprisingly like some of the stories throughout this book were very feel good. You know, it's like kind of again playing into that help one person, that person goes off and helps a lot more people, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just like a do goodwill in the galaxy, just Jedi.
It's like a do good pyramid scheme.
It's like the first time I think it's ever been like this is just a Jedi being a Jedi. You know, like normally we just watch stories where they're warriors.
Yeah, exactly. They're going after a big bad. They're almost just like galactic police as opposed to peacekeepers.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is Star Wars: The Living Force. So I feel like we should probably give this some Pablo points and poodoos. So let's cue up the music here. All right, so Pablo Points and Poodoos is our fun, ridiculous, crazy rating system on the show. It is a scale out of 7. So I'll explain it out for you, Ian, just in case if I forget if you've played Pablo Points and Poodoos with us before, but it's kind of ridiculous. So 3 Pablo Poodoos is just the worst of the worst. 2 Pablo Poodoos is bad. 1 Pablo Poodoo is not great. A Bendu is 50% score. That's like in the middle. Kind of a mediocre, don't like it, don't hate it. Then you got Pablo points. 1 Pablo point is good, 2 Pablo points is great, and 3 Pablo points is the best of the best of the best. So maybe we can start with you, Ian. What would you give this?
Give it 1 Pablo point. Yeah, good story. Not shattering, but yeah, just good.
All right, cool. Yeah, what about you, Blake?
I think for me, I'm probably going to go with a Bendu because there was moments that I really enjoyed, but at the same time, it wouldn't be something I would, having now, gone through, at least most of it, be something I would want to pull off the shelf necessarily.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I kind of struggle with this one because, like, on the one hand, I thought it wasn't bad. It was just like I don't know how much I would want to reread it. Is the thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because like for me, maybe you feel this as well. Is I guess when I'm reading Star Wars books, I kind of want that adventure. I know we just talked about them always being more the warriors or the police, but that also is the stories I probably gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So I see it as a story that was worth exploring, especially considering just the lore and the canon around kind of Qui-Gon's perspective on the Force and what huge effect that actually has. But on the other hand, it's not the most terribly exciting. Right.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, given that, I think I'll probably give it a 0.5 Pablo point. Just kind of right in the middle, Bendu and one Pablo point. I don't know, Ian. Does that change anything? Do you sticking with 1, or do you want to give it a 0.5 or anything?
I'll stick with 1. Yeah, I did enjoy the majority of the book. I do agree though in certain places it's a bit slow, but yeah, no, I did enjoy it.
All right, sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we got a 0.5, a Bendu, and a 1. So I mean, in general, I'd say like overall pretty good. I think who is this book for? Probably any fan of the Phantom Menace for sure. I mean, this was,
and I would argue older people. I'm not sure if myself at 13 would be able to sit through a lot of the slower parts.
No, and this is an adult novel, to be fair. Like, it's not a young adult novel or a junior novel. Like, it's for the Del Rey audience, you know, the adult Star Wars book. So, yeah, you know, it's a little more suited for mature readers, I would say. But yeah, you know, probably for fans of Phantom Menace, fans of the Jedi, still in their prime, you know, and overall, just probably one of the first general feel-good books I think I've read.
Yeah, I would still say the strongest point is just being able to explore deeper into a lot of the Jedi Council members, because a lot of them, you get maybe one or two stories in Clone Wars, but that's really it. And
Yeah.
it's cool to see them all needing to work together.
Yeah.
It's funny how that seems to only happen in arenas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? All right, cool. Well, that being said, I think that's all for today. So before we wrap things up, you know, we did just celebrate. We did just celebrate Star Wars Podcast Day not that long ago, which was February 7th on the Friday is when that episode dropped. And we also had an episode drop from Star Wars Launchpad, which is an experimental podcast that we've been doing lately, which is mostly AI generated. It's just the intro and the outro is our own recording, but the meat of the podcast, which is quite short, is between 10 and 30 minutes, is all generated based on the StarWars.com news articles that we feed it, as well as any other official sources. So, you know, we do put the sources in the description below, but we just encourage all of you guys out there listening to check it out for fun. It's kind of fascinating what technology can bring these days, and it sounds very convincing. It sounds like real people. So that's kind
I was
of
very surprised by that too.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting part of listening to it. Is like, oh wow, like this actually doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah, and the idea is just to make a easy, subscribable way to get Star Wars news directly from StarWars.com, so you can just, you know, listen to it in the morning or in the car or whatever.
Exactly. But yeah, seeing as it is Podcast Day or Star Wars Podcast Day, only a week or two ago, whenever this one drops, you know, we encourage you all to check out all the other, you know, podcasts out there. And speaking of which, Ian, you normally spend a lot of time with Peter on the Star Wars, so maybe you want to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, me and Peter and Jason and Kat, we record a semi-regular Star Wars podcast. We just go over the news or review stuff that's come out. Yeah, and we have a good time. We like to chat Star Wars. So yeah, if anyone wants to find that, it's at Ballstar on Twitter and everywhere else, and it's just called the Star Wars Show, which is it'd be great if anyone could give it a listen who's listening.
Awesome. All right, and I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. And without further ado, thanks so much to the both of you for reading this book and joining us on the review. And thanks so much, Ian, for tuning in, you know, with us. You come from a completely different time zone over there, so really appreciate it.
No problem, anytime.
All right, and Blake, thank you as always.
So it's a good time.
We'll see you out there.
See you out there. Keep flying.
May the Force be with all our listeners out there. We hope you enjoyed the show. We would appreciate a nice 5-star review. That always helps us out a lot. And we will see you in the next one.